Hi guys, happy Wednesday. So I've decided to push your project back till after spring break, so you don't have to worry about that right now. Just get reading Walden and your Walden response done. Those even aren't due till the Tuesday after spring break either, so you've got some time. If you still have third quarter work to make up, please get that done first. That's like super duper important, okay? So let's chat a little bit about Walden. So in order to understand Walden, you have to understand what Thoreau did. He decided one day he wanted to see what it would be like to live life fully reliant on himself. Self-reliant, if you will. Okay, he wanted to know what it would be like to abandon all his earthly possessions, all his creature comforts, and see what can he do all by himself to create life for himself. So he abandons his home and his job, and he ends his lease, abandons his job, goes to live for about a year on the side of a lake called Walden Pond in Massachusetts. I encourage you to look that up. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But he's gonna go live in this place in Massachusetts. And he lives in a teeny weeny, tiny little cabin. It holds a bed and a table, and that's kind of it. And he lives there for about a year. He brings with him some clothes, and not like a week's worth, but 2 outfits. One to wear, and when that one gets dirty, you have another one to wear while you're washing that one. That's kind of it. He decides to simplify his life down to as little as possible. He says that he doesn't want to do any more accounting than can be done on his 10 fingers and 10 toes. Now, it was in the late 1800s, so money is a little different then, but can you imagine never having bills or cash exchanges or anything like that over $20? Because that'd be pretty cool. I can't imagine that though. I mean, I'd love it, but I don't have that in my life. He says if you have a list of things to do, any list that's longer than your thumbnail, it's too long, which is completely unfathomable for me. I have lists that are days long, months long, weeks long. And that's okay, it's how I live my life. But he wanted to see how simply he could live his life. And Walden documents his experiences in his year. Because one day he's, asleep and he wakes up and he's like, you know what, I want to figure out what it's like to live simply. And so he does. He takes all these precautions and when he writes about Walden, he kind of writes about his experience just kind of chilling by the lake. He provides his own food. If he can hunt it or fish it, he eats it. If he can grow it, he eats it. Other than that, there's a local farmer who might get an apple or two from, but that's really the full extent of his life, is working with the land that he has and the space that he has, living in the woods, seeing what it has to offer, spending all of his time in nature. He relies on himself and spends time in nature, so he's honestly just exemplifying what we've been reading about with Emerson. So Thoreau is sitting by a lake and he's writing about how he's daydreaming, because sometimes while he's sitting there, he's like, what would it be like to own that farm over there? And he kind of sits there and he's looking at it and he's like, I could put a fence there and I could change this around and I could have all that. But he never decides to buy anything, because while he loves living next to Walden Lake, that's really cool for him, he doesn't want to be burdened with homeownership. He says that when you own something, especially something big like that, it ties you down just like if you were unable to, it limits your freedom in the same way that prison limits your freedom. That's a pretty big statement. Huge, in fact. But if you think about it, if you own a home, you have to keep up with it. It ties you to one spot, one location. Well, that makes sense. You own a home. And there's no point owning a home if you let it fall apart, so you need to take care of it. But it does mean your money's tied up, your equity's tied up. You have a physical space that you need to occupy or make sure someone occupies, right? So he says that ties you down. Any ownership of anything really ties you down. I have animals. My dog. He's great. I love him. Right now, half of my attention is on him trying to eat some bees in my yard because I don't want to take him to the emergency vet. And, but if I go anywhere, I have to know where is he going to be? Who's going to take care of him? Can he come with me? I have to consider all of those things for him, for both cats, for the snake. I got so many things I have to be worried about because I have ownership of things, of my home, of my car. And he says that when you own things, it ties you down. It might be a good thing for some people, but for him, he wanted to live as freely as possible. And owning something, it tied him down too much. So he talks about what he daydreams, what he would like to do. But he never actually does that because, well, he doesn't want to be tied down. He wants to live as simply as possible. He says, simplify, simplify, simplify. If you think it's simple enough, it's probably not. Think about your house for a second. Okay, how many things do you have in your home that you don't need? Is your bed wider than your body? You don't need a bed that big. How many pairs of shoes do you own? More than 2, more than 3? Do Do you need that many? How about clothing? Certainly we all have more than we need there. I certainly do. I have like 6 pairs of sunglasses. Like, come on. I don't need a grill if I have a stove. I don't need backyard chairs. I can sit on the ground. I don't need to have 3 TVs in my house, but I do. And he says, you know, he's looking at his life and he's realizing all the things he has that he doesn't need. That he says in the end don't really enhance his life, because his life is what he can provide. And if he spends his year living on Walden Lake, he's trying to discover who he is and what he can provide for himself, what he can do to give himself happiness and joy, and what it's like to live simply. Because he has a theory, and I don't think he's far off, that the more you simplify your life, the better and easier it gets. So he's there for about a year. And one day he wakes up and he's like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm about done. And because, again, he's trying to be true to himself as much as possible, he says, okay, I'm going home then. He leaves the pond, and he takes his experiences with him and makes a whole book. So all that he had when he went there was some clothing and some blankets and a book. And that's what he spends an entire year with. And it's really cool to learn about what it would be like to try to take a step back, be so independent like that. Could you do it? Could you give up all the comforts of your home, all the comforts of friendship and family, and live in a cabin on a lake for a year? Providing your own food, growing your own food, your own entertainment, all on you. Could you do it? Some of you guys are like, heck yeah, I'd fish every day. It'd be awesome. Sorry, all the pollen is real. And some of you are like, that sounds terrible. I would never want to do that. We're currently living our lives a little more simply than we have been before. It's amazing how many things you don't need. You want them. I want them too, but we don't need them. Now, I will say I need to teach you in a real classroom. This doesn't work for me. And hopefully it doesn't work for you either. I would love to see you guys again. But living life simply like that is a whole different world. And he decides he wants to figure that out for himself and see what he can do. So I have a couple challenges for you this week. I challenge you first to spend some time outside and see what you can simplify. What can you do in your life to make things a little less intense, a little less dependent on others? If it means you cook yourself a meal, the whole thing start to finish, do it. If it means that you take a step back from the technology, sorry, and then do it. If it means that you spend some time, by yourself thinking about what's going on, do it. If it means that you want to give away half of your clothing to Goodwill, do it. You've got options. Simplify your life a little bit. I also encourage you to look up the tiny house movement. It's a movement that's directly influenced by transcendentalism. And people have been abandoning their big homes, all of their earthly possessions, to live in a tiny house, which are usually smaller than our classroom, like half our classroom size. Some of the bathrooms are only like 3 feet by 2 feet. So if you could put your elbows up to wash your hair, you probably hit the edges of the shower. Some of their rooms are only 6 feet long. Some of you guys wouldn't even fit in them. So I want you to look up some tiny houses, because it's kind of a really cool modern transcendentalism. You remember from watching Mountain Men what modern transcendentalism looks like. So during this week and your spring break, get outside. Enjoy the beauty that is our world, because spring was not canceled. There's beautiful flowers blooming and budding. There's bees buzzing, birds chirping. It's pretty cool. Get outside, enjoy your time with yourself, become more self-reliant. Those are your spring break goals. You do have a Walden response due online. It's not due till a Tuesday after spring break, so you've got some time, okay? And then for your guest appearance, hey, Fletcher. Hey, good boy, sit. Can you sit? Good boy, give me a paw. Yeah. That's my dog. You've heard about him, so now you've seen him. Enjoy your spring break. Make good choices. Get outside. I love you.